we dive into questions, I'd love to hear a bit about you and ABL, maybe a quick overview of what you're
Mhm.
focused on right now, your approach, and yes.
Okay, so basically, ABL is a company that's a holding company for about six different type of startups, right? And we build full orchestration process for GTM. Not necessarily off the shelf. Okay, everything is not. We don't do any off the shelf stuff. That's ridiculous. It's garbage. LLM is garbage. That's not us. Okay, we
Okay.
actually do a lot of mathematical optimization and operational research. So we build algorithms behind the AI. We build digital twins for simulation testing. So we build very complex environments for sales. Our sales are not for SaaS companies, right?
Right.
We deal with companies who do $80 billion and above globally. So we deal in Europe, Asia, the Middle East, some Latin America. Most of our AI agents are built for reading microsignals, understanding perception, doing prescriptive and predictive environments, right? So we go beyond the LLM. LLM is nice wrapper for us. It's not good because it just scrapes public data and says, oh, this is a good email for you to send. This is a good person for you to call. That's stupid. That's garbage. Any kid can build that. We
Okay.
build our AI is an AI, agentic AI workflow. So what happens here? What we build is built around reading microsignals and microeconomic stressors on an enterprise that are not necessarily due to internal environments. So what are those environments? Those are signals, right? So you take, for example, a company, I'll give you an example. It's a food service company that's at $80 billion, right?
Right.
And my salespeople are working in that vertical. So they're looking at seeing where it is that is creating economic pressure or revenue pressure on that company, right? Is it a long term? Is it short term? Is it reactionary, right? So it could be two things: supply chain disruptions, gas prices going up, and labor shortages, right? And maybe there's a drought, so there's not going to be enough tomatoes. Price of tomatoes are going to go up to distribute maybe 30% of the tomatoes in this country. That's a that's a micro stress. That's long term, right? So now what happens is this: the signals that we build is, for example, one of my companies sells very sophisticated software solutions. So we have to read these signals very carefully to be able to go to our ICP. So in the morning when you walk in, your AI assistant is telling you, William, these are your 5 signals to these ICPs and these verticals, right? And these are long-term, these are stressful, and these are going to create economic stress for a longer period. So you might want to talk to X, Y, and Z today, and just don't tell them, this is your problem. Just say, hey, we just heard this. I want to know how this is affecting you. I think that can help solve this problem for you. So this is what we're building. We're building the next generation of AI. I've been doing this for 10 years in AI. So I've done this back and forth. One of the things that we're working on is, that's the overview. So,
Okay.
so our thing is most of the off-the-shelf stuff is not really good.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for sharing, William. It's fascinating to see what you are building with ABL. Now that I understand a bit more about you and your background, let me give you some context about who we are and why we are excited to speak with you today.
Mhm.
We are Teilur Talent, and we are our company connects LATAM tech talent with US and Canadian companies. Right now, we
Right.
are running a market research initiative to understand how AI is shaping engineering, go-to-market, and organizational strategies. And we are speaking with leaders like you to capture insights that will be shared with our community of over
Mm.
60,000 LinkedIn followers, of many of whom are tech leaders, founders, and operators.
Okay.
And with that context, I love to explore a few topics with you. Feel free to
Right.
speak how you want, and this means to be a conversational discussion rather than
Okay,
a
great.
formal interview. Okay, so the first question is, beyond sales and lead generation, how is ABL currently approaching AI, and where do you see the biggest opportunities?
Again, because we don't work in traditional AI, Our opportunities are focused on next generational AI, right? Deep learning and machine learning. Uh, the LLM is a crowded space, and honestly, 70% of what LLMs are doing right now can be done by open generative AI. So I don't need a Python developer. I don't need that. Why would I
Okay.
want that, right? I can do that in 2 seconds. So the focus should be on sophisticated machine learning, operational monitoring, and optimization modeling. Those are the three areas where the demand's going to come in because that's where the differentiator is. You have 90% of the companies developing stuff that will not work. So it's going to create a stress on the labor market for those particular talents, right? And they're being replaced. Programmers are being replaced. Marketing departments are being replaced, right? The only differentiator for talent is going to be what do I bring to the table that works cohesively with AI? The human in the loop element has you have to continue emphasizing that part, right? Why the humans should be involved. Why you should not codepend totally on AI, right?
Right.
Again, 90% of the stuff is being done in the cloud. We don't do anything in the cloud. Everything is on premise. Forget about it. The GPU sprawl, that's a big problem. So companies and people who are taking into account how to build that efficient AI agents, right? How to pick the right GPU. Because if you don't know how to pick the right GPU, then you're building, you might be overbuilding, and it's a very expensive thing. So if, for example, someone's hiring a developer, an AI high end, if the person understands how to build efficient models, right? And how to apply the right GPU, because for example, in NVIDIA, you can have 4 or 5 different GPUs, right? So basically, when you build any kind of AI agent, you're required to use tokens, right?
Right.
But those tokens come with a relationship to a GPU, right? The GPU is like the processor that processes those commands, right? What this does is the more complex the AI, the higher level of GPU that you have to use, right? So you could be spending $1 million to develop an AI using very high-end GPU, but at the end of the day, the function of that AI, right, doesn't necessarily require you to use the H level GPU, right? You can use the A level. That will cut the cost down from $1 million to $200,000. So a good engineer has really should have a good grasp on this, right? And that's where value comes from my perspective. And that's where the future is going to create efficiencies internally on the development of those AIs, right? Have the talent that recognizes how to do that. Prompt engineering is going to go away. Everything is going to be natural language processing. So you all have to do is inquiry or query based, right?
Right.
Uh, Search engines are going to go away. So concentrate on where the business is heading to, right? So most of the business is not heading to sales. Most of the business is more into the understanding business process, reading business signals, and having the AI give you what we call agentic workflow, right? Not AI, agentic, just agentic AI. Agentic workflow is very different. Now it involves the human more. It gives you options. It says this is what we suggest. This is second suggestion. This is third suggestion, and this is the reasoning behind this, right? So that's where the future is in talent. People who are smart enough to be creative and understand how to take a client's desires or needs and translate that into business value, not just solution, business value.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And with this introduction and that what you say, how do you think this will reshape the go-to-market teams and customer acquisition strategies?
I think it will eliminate about 30% of the staff, right?
Okay.
Research, ICP development, market penetration development, market opportunity development, and forecasting, right? That can all be automated now.
Okay.
And that's for me, that piece will change. The go to market orchestration has been overhyped in the last year. I've been
Yeah.
doing go to market for 17 years. Uh, and it's not for everyone, right? So if you have a small company that's doing $10 million a year, you have to be an idiot to use GTM, honestly, right? Because it's
Right.
garbage. That's not doing business. You know, that's not that's really small, and that's overkill, right? So you have to know where GTM is effective, right? Where and then where it's overkill. Um, if you're again, for me, GTM is an overused word right now, a little acronym that's everybody, oh, GTM, GTM. Understand what GTM is, where it really applies to your organization, and use the right tools and the right individuals, right? People separate, there's a lot of silos between sales and marketing, right?
Right.
That's shouldn't exist. Again, you have to de-silo all your sales effort, right? So everything that a company does, marketing, LinkedIn posts, everything is sales oriented, right? It should be the same cohesive message. It should be the same message, aimed at the same ICP, aimed at solving the problem that's relevant, not just generalized problem. So that's where a lot of companies overuse GTM.
Okay. And what are some of the biggest misconceptions organizations have when adopting AI solutions today?
For what specific area? In general,
In general, yes.
uh, I would say their codependency on it, thinking that it can do everything, not understanding that you are not to use shadow AI in an
Okay.
environment because that's creates huge vulnerabilities, not having governance in place. So no AI governance, no AI ops, no AI management, right? So
Right.
adapting AI before it's time. Let's put it this way. That's number one. Adapt AI before it's time. Don't adapt it just because you see it advertised, right? Really
Right.
understand whether your infrastructure and your capabilities are ready for it. Then understand what that should do for you, right? So have the 3, 6 month, 9 month review period when you can see the matrices on it, right? And be able to measure its effectiveness. That's the biggest problem companies are making right now. They are thinking that it solves problems that they don't even know how to measure its effectiveness. And that for me is a big problem.
Okay. So, do you think adoption is as much about mindset as about technology?
I think it's more hype than anything. I think adoption is being done have I would say the word is half-assed here, right?
Right.
With not enough thought put into it, right? So people are saying, "I'll buy this AI, I'll put this AI agent, I'll do this," and and they really don't know what it's supposed to do, right? Create my presentation. They actually go up to say, "Create a presentation for me." Like, well, what do you want it to do? How do you want it to do? And then can you do it? You know how to do prompts, right?
Yeah.
All
And
these things. Yeah, it's
yeah,
very
and
difficult.
from your experience, what differentiate AI initiatives that create real business value from those that remain experiments?
The ones that create business value are very expensive. Okay,
Okay.
they're not cheap. I mean, we will charge between $700,000 to $5 million for one.
Okay.
So it's not cheap. To create this business value, it has to really. We're right now doing a project, for example, right, with a major bank, and they spend $10 to $12 million a month just on GPU token. That's why I was talking about that, right? So
Right.
that's become a sprawl. They came to us, help us solve this sprawl, right? Find inefficiencies in this, right? We go in, we look at it and say, okay, this is the inefficiency. You have 10 groups developing two types of AIs. One is the agents themselves, right? Then you have another group that has the deployed AIs, right? They're working with the brokers, they're working with the stock guys, they're working with the AIs of their companions, right? Those are two different business units. So when you look at a problem, the business value has to come into which problem can I solve with AI right now? how can I solve it more efficiently, faster, and less expensive, and save you money? Everything is about saving money or making more money.
Yeah.
So if you don't do solve any of those two problems for a company, then you're not going to get anywhere. So if you do it just because I'm doing AI, then you're lost. But at the end of the day, what companies are not realizing is that $99 off the shelf AI agent's not going to solve anything, right?
Okay.
Do I want a robocall from an AI? No, it's the same thing. If I get a telemarketing call, I'm going to hang up on it. It's a waste of time. Now, in other areas for intake, for example, right? There's a company called Carrier. There's a company called Shark Ninja. They're doing a very good job, but they understood the problem that they had. So, for example, service calls, right?
Right.
When you do a service call, support call, the AI agent can quantify and they can look at and troubleshoot automatically with the client, right?
Right.
And then once that troubleshooting gets by, it's like doing a level one support. Once that gets by, the next level says, okay, I can't solve the problem for you, but I've identified this, right? So it sends it to the next person, to a real life person who now is looking at it and say, okay, now I understand the problem. And the AI is helping that agent, okay, with documentation, with use cases or whatever, saying, hey, tell them to try this, tell them to try that. But the initial part, when you call someone for internet service, my internet is down, did you unplug it? Did you recharge it? Did you do this? That can be done by AI, right? But out of a 30-minute call, 8 minutes can be done by AI.
Hmm. No.
Okay. So that
Yeah.
saves you, 8 minutes, and you have these companies do, one company I know is doing $35 million a year in service calls. So if you can save 10%, that's 3.5 million. But the solution has to be about $900,000. You see? So now their ROI will be maybe 18 months.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, because humans are focusing more on strategy, context, and judgment, while AI handles the volume.
Right.
Right.
And and it's very difficult for organizations. Honestly, they don't have a lot of experience with it. And that's my main contention is in Latin America, I've worked with some companies, and specifically, we do have partners. For
Okay.
example, what's the name of this company? It's a company that I deal with. I'll tell you the name. Uh, Claro, right? In Colombia.
Claro.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
They're very good. They're extremely
The-
good at what they're doing, right? They're really good. They're a partner of ours, and they're really good at what they're doing, and they have a big footprint, and they really know exactly the right type of solutions in AI that should go. Now, there are a bunch of other companies out there that we talk to that are just fluff, right?
Right.
And education wise, I think, yeah, we should spend more. The kids should be learning AI, but not using AI to do their homework.
Yeah. How do you see the relationship between human expertise and autonomous agents evolving over the next few years?
Uh, they're going to be companions, right? AI companions, literally. They'll wake up with you. They'll give you your. I have right now a couple of companions. I wake up every morning. I get my priority list from my companion, right? I get my schedule for the day from my companion, and I also get suggestions for lunch.
Okay.
So yeah, you're going to have a companion at work, right? Just like you have a coworker, but this
Yeah.
companion is going to give you what to prioritize that day, what your task should be. It might give you feedback on how you're doing, right? And that's important for you. That's important for the company to understand, right? Am I helping you? Is this helping you become more efficient, right? So
Right.
yeah, that's where I see it having the most impact on the surface, right? Where we're talking where people actually interact with AI. Now we interact with AI in more subtle ways, right? In ways that you don't know you're interacting with AI.
Yeah. It's
So
part of our lives now.
right, but those again, those only matter to the people who actually make it work. right? So we implement a lot of AI. Nobody sees it, but we're good with that because nobody needs to see it. That's the good. That's the good part. If you don't see it and you can't tell it, then we did our job.
Yeah. Looking ahead, what capabilities do you believe organizations will need to successfully integrate AI into their operations and remain competitive?
Two things. People should learn how to work their role with AI, right?
Okay.
What AI can and what AI cannot do, right? They
It's
should
like a
also,
successful integration
yeah, but
with,
successful integration requires two things. It's like any integration between you and somebody you work with, right? Do you
right?
trust their skill set, right? Do you understand and what they're saying? Do you believe it? The veracity of what they say, right? Can you
Right.
check them, right? Does your experience, your experience allow you to say, yeah, that makes sense. I trust it, right? Does your inexperience allow you to continue trusting something without checking it? You see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
that's where the psychology behind it has to be put into place.
Okay.
That's a
And
big overlooked piece. Most people are, I'm just surprised how many people don't even think about that.
yes. Okay. And before we wrap up, is
Hmm?
there anything else you'd like to share about ABL's AI initiatives or advice for companies who are
Uh,
adopting and injecting AI?
I I think adapted at a slow pace, right? Depending on the company, again, depending on what you do, right? Most companies want to adapt AI to sell AI, which is like
Yeah.
it doesn't really make sense. But anyway, if and then other ones want they want to develop AI for other companies, right? But they want to cast a wide net and see how many fish they catch, right? That's wrong. That just makes you a commodity. So do not commoditize yourself because most people are commoditizing themselves. Just like, the transfer of technology that's helped countries like Colombia and Brazil and India and all of these countries become very competitive has been because it no longer costs a huge amount of money to go to a university in the United States to acquire knowledge, right? You can acquire it from the comfort of your house in Medellin. You have that ability now. You don't need to go to a specialized school to learn how to program. You can learn, right? So that transfer of technology is creating a very democratic system for creating a very dynamic workforce. But if we don't nurture that to the way to create uh, uniqueness, then we become a commodity. Then we're just bidding on, who's the cheapest. Everything being equal, who's the cheapest, right?
Right.
Yeah, stay away from commoditizing yourself. Find your unique voice and use it. Colombia has done a very smart thing. I know the guys who founded Rappi, for example, right? I know them very well, many, many years ago. And Nubank, I know them very well. I know a lot of the good companies that are coming out of Colombia. And the one thing that they did, they didn't solve global problems. They solved local problems.
Yeah.
The local problems go from Mexico all the way to Punta del Fuego, Tierra del Fuego. Okay, that's a big local problem, and that's smart. You see, that's what you should do. Solve local problems because that's where the market is, not solving American problems
Yeah.
because that you're not going to get in there. Rappi would die in here, right? Nubank is not going to be, that's not going to work here, right? But you see, that's where you have to think. Most startups in Colombia have to start thinking that way, not global. Think, solve local problems because no one in the U.S. is going to solve your local problem.
Yeah.
They don't care about it. They don't care about it. If they solve a problem that happens to solve your problem, fine, right? But guess what? You have nuisances. You have things that advantages that no other company has, or other countries have. You have an understanding of your audience.
Yes. And also, companies have to build their own communities, right?
Yeah, and but you have one advantage that a U.S. company does not have. You know your audience.
Yes.
No matter how much market research I do, You know how people interact in the store, how people interact with technology, right?
Right.
And that's an advantage that people forget, you know?
Yes, because people is always thinking global and they forget the most important thing, that is the local problems.
That's, yep, that's your easiest entry to market.
Yes. So, William, thank you so much for your
No
sharing.
problem.
Your insights are very valuable for me and for our audience.